I don't really know where to start with this. Got a lot of thoughts on my mind and just know where to set them, so figured might as well record it and just throw it out there for the world. Get that internal chatter to be external chatter, just to, get it out there, see what's going on, and externalize it a little bit, because internal processing hasn't really been the most helpful. But I don't know, I find myself sitting out here on the back porch, just meditating, ranting to myself about stuff, all nature of manner of sorts and things. And so I figured someone else might find it interesting if they ever find it, just because I don't feel like my situation is too different from many other guys, especially nowadays. So where to begin with that? That's a whole wormhole in of itself. And, I was just thinking about everything. Just pulled up a video, listened to it, and just hearing about how, I don't know, I was thinking in the content creation space and then realizing how alien that is to who I am. And it's unfortunate because, I like to think I have interesting things to say. I have interesting commentary and all that, but just technology is my enemy ultimately. Stuff like, I vehemently dislike texts that aren't for pure information, just because it's a very impersonal form of communication, and so a lot is lost in that. So I'm awful at responding to DMs, just as a blanket statement, regardless of who it's from, and just because I find it to be impersonal, I don't like it. So I've started telling people, excuse me, if you want to get a hold of me, call me. Because if you call me, I'm more likely to pick up and respond. Just because it's so hard to form an emotional bond. There it is. And every once in a while, people come cruising up and down this street. Just, I don't even know why. It's not a good street to cruise down anyway. It's short. But I don't know. I'm a very much, to an extent, a people person, and so getting a hold of associating a person with letters on a screen is very difficult, because it's just such an impersonalizing form of communication, and it's frustrating, because our world has so increasingly become involved around technology for large benefit, but also significant detriment. Stuff like phones being ubiquitous. I need a phone for my work. Most people use their phones daily to a large extent, whether it be to keep in contact with people, keep themselves entertained, maybe for work as well. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like I wasn't really born for that. And gave me a shield and a sword and threw me back into like the medieval ages, I'd have a lot more fun of a time, because life was simple and straightforward, which I guess kind of leads me more into the thing of purpose. Purpose is really difficult to find nowadays. Society isn't really good at providing structure for that, so people just gotta go out of their way to find it. Specifically, guys, it's really, as a dude, it's really hard to find purpose and to find something to stick behind. Because if you make your work your life, you're miserable because all you're doing is working. If you make people your life, well, people can be flaky, so what then? I'm reminded of this quote. It says, "Life is pain. If anyone tries to tell you different, they're trying to sell you something." And that's a very real statement, because life is painful. Life sucks a lot of the time. And so finding a good why is really important, which is to say just finding a good purpose. Whether it be a small thing, a big thing. It could be something new every morning you wake up, but it's just something everyone has to figure out. But rarely does it come easy. Not to mention confluating purpose with happiness, because purpose will provide happiness, but happiness can be temporary. Happiness can be found in a lot of places, in our vices that we all have in some way, shape, or form. Heck, I'm sitting out here on the back porch, smoking cigarettes, just rambling to myself about nothing. Or something, depending on how you look at it. This feels insanely counterproductive. Slowly killing myself just for a temporary boost because I like what it does, and yet I don't want to stop. Why? Because it feels good. I think that's kind of how a lot of people get. They get stuck in habits they don't like because it's easier or convenient for the moment. And so, why change for long-term benefit when you can have short-term gain? And just keep going. It's not to say it's anything special. We all find something or another that we do to fill our voids. From a certain perspective, everything could be viewed as vice. Video games, TV, company, people, work. In moderation, all that stuff can be good, but as soon as it becomes as soon as it becomes over attended to, becomes a detriment because it starts taking away from other things. And it's hard to form enjoyable habits that, are healthy. Like I just got back into working out, and it's great. I really do enjoy it. It's lift the round circles to make the bad voices go away. That's really what it is. But the body has limits, and so it can only really handle so much before it fails. And then after that, what do you do when you your one pump is out. That's not to say everything is bad. That would be illogical and unreasonable. Just because doing stuff you enjoy is worth doing. Sometimes that spontaneous burst of the thing you want to do is worth it. Sometimes buying that jacket you wanted, going on a hike, going on a walk, is what you need. Like I've gone on many a midnight walk just because it's what I needed. Move, threw my earbuds in, played a song on repeat, walked for like 3 hours because I needed that physical stimulation to stimulate the mind, to get through the thoughts that just stick inside little bits and pieces in the back of the brain that no one really looks at. And just reflecting on stuff. Reflecting on that deeper space, because ultimately understanding what makes you tick is important. If you don't know how you tick or why you do what you do, you're going to get lost and you're going to fall into same old traps, same old ruts, because medicating the symptoms won't solve the root cause. It's just a major problem, because yeah, you can mitigate the symptoms and maybe it'll not affect you as much, but wouldn't it be better to just cut out the root, even if it's more difficult and it's hard work, because then you don't have to mitigate the symptoms. And so instead of putting in a lot of work over time to mitigate symptoms, you can just put in the work to begin with. But that is far easier said than done, because often a little effort here and there is easier than a lot of effort at once. Let's say, and it's kind of where I'm at, I guess. Just looking at everything I do, why I do it. I'm not doing things necessarily because they're healthy, but because they're a way around it. Specifically, like working out. I started working out to get past some deep-seated emotions I don't know what to do with. And now I can't tell if I'm working out because I want to be healthy, and I just riled up the emotions to keep going and keep doing it, to have some kind of fuel for my fire, or if the emotions are just lingering and therefore they cause me to go seek out things. It's difficult to know. Only by reflecting upon it can one find the answers. If there are answers, and beyond answers, if they're satisfactory, goodness. Enunciation is very important, evidently. But it's just, all of it. One big mess that we call life. All of us have to live it. None of us signed up for it, but we all get the gift of it, or at least most of us would call it that. And that's a lot of whinging and nagging about it without really providing answers, because this all kind of ties into that purpose I was mentioning, where finding something that's worth doing, worth spending your time on, worth spending your effort on to build yourself up is worth doing. And not letting you hold yourself back from whatever that is. Like with the working out, I find even if I'm not necessarily in it for the right reasons, it is a good thing to do because I'm building my body better. I'm getting stronger. I'm being healthier. If I'll be killing myself slowly with these smokes, and that's good. My reasoning behind it may not be, but it's still good. So, should I really be judging it based off of the reasoning for doing it or the results behind it? Which ultimately comes down to which is a question you can do to a lot of things. Which is more important, the process by which you get somewhere or the result you get at the end? Because unfortunately, a lot of people will look at the end results as the end all be all. Kind of tangenting off. It's kind of like how people don't judge you by your intentions, they judge you by your actions. So the path to hell is paved with good intentions. You can want to do the right thing, but if your actions don't follow through with it, what does it matter? It's just a shame. If we could all see each other's intentions, society would be a lot easier. If I'm trying to do the good things and I genuinely say something meaning it to be good, people just understanding that and doing that would be so much straightforward, because then we get past that barrier of communication. But therein lies why we have words in the first place, to try to communicate meaning. But semantics are so nuanced that two words that have on paper the same definition can mean two completely different things in a context. And there's so much subtext to it. Another reason why I don't like texting is just because so much of that is lost in words on paper. Whereas if I say something and you hear my voice, you can understand the inflection and tone. And if you can see my face, then you can see like my facial expression, all of that. And there's so much unwritten communication that happens when talking to someone that's just lost the more removed from that face-to-face conversation you get. And it's just annoying. I sometimes just wish I could just take my thoughts and beam them directly into people's heads, because if only there's just so much meaning that sometimes it feels like words can't properly communicate what is behind it. And so it just sits there and exists. And that's part of why back and forth is so important, because then if you say something, people can ask questions, but sometimes people don't ask questions. It's some people don't want to communicate well or don't know how to, and it's just frustrating, because I don't want to pick fights with people. Picking fights with people sucks, and it takes a lot of energy, all that stuff, especially over something so simple as a semantic argument. But it's an unfortunate inevitability of just the way we communicate. And of course, that gets smoothed out over time as you talk to the same person more and more, and they catch on to like how you use certain words and whatnot. But the process of getting there can be arduous. Or so it goes. And then, even with that, that only mitigates chances of that happening. And the better a rhetorician you are, the less it'll happen. The more you talk with someone, the less it'll happen, just because you better understand each other. And it's just the interest, like everyone does that style of community. Everyone has that, but I often wonder how many people choose to like actually reflect on that, because I find I'm very much a person who needs to know why. I need to understand in a earnestly self-destructive way sometimes, where even if the knowledge is going to be damaging or bad, I still want to know, because I'd rather be informed than uninformed. But there's only so much information one person can gather. It's honestly why I don't like talking about, big issues with people, specifically politics. Just, yeah, I know. It's that time of night. It just makes talking about heated issues so difficult, especially because certain people just don't know how to have a good conversation about things they're passionate about. They can't separate their feelings from what they're saying, and it just makes a disaster of a conversation where I don't want to argue with people, I just want to understand, but sometimes people can't talk about certain things without it becoming an argument. It's difficult to talk about it. And I don't necessarily think all those people are being malicious. They're not trying to start a fight just for the sake of starting a fight. At least most people aren't. But being able to reasonably discuss things seemingly feels like it's a lost art to an extent. And maybe that's just because I'm online too much and I just see all of the hot garbage takes of people on Twitter about things, the lack of information and just slandering and all that stuff. But if that exists in an online space, it somewhat reflects reality, because ultimately there are people behind those accounts saying these things. People, beautifully complicated and painfully simple all at once. It sucks. Because on some levels you can get to know a person and have a lot of depth to them, but at some point you can also just categorize them into archetypes and there's this, and this, which all links up with that, and it's just, we're all relative as people, we're all unique, but we're still just a collection of finite traits. How we got there might be different, but the fact that we all got there was, telling. Everyone's story is different, and yet so many people end up in the same ruts, in the same trenches together, despite having completely different walks of life. And it's both disheartening and nice in a twisted kind of way, because regardless of what you're going through, it always means that someone else is experiencing it, most likely. But it also means that someone else is going through what you're going through. And I think most reasonable people wouldn't wish their suffering on anyone else. Most reasonable people, anyway. And that's the hard part of it, is suffering builds character. But rarely would we choose to build that character. My first relationship, I had a really bad breakup, and that destroyed me, really, on a deep emotional level, and I am a far better person because of what happened. I just never would have chosen it or wished it upon anyone else, despite the fact that it has bettered me. But the only reason it's really bettered me is because I chose to learn from it. And that's the thing, is people who have suffered usually have very strong strength of character, for better or for worse. And that as a culture, we kind of idolize our suffering. We kind of put it on a pedestal to say, hey, if you've suffered, you deserve more. And to an extent, that makes sense, because who really wants to, people who have suffered sometimes do deserve more, but it makes it hard for people who haven't suffered or suffered to the same extent, to necessarily feel successful at their stuff. Like, I have not suffered a whole lot, but I still have a reasonably good life, and yet I can't really accept it. And to what end? Here I am, just sitting out on a back porch, rambling to no one but myself about things that ultimately I'm not sure really matter. Or at least in some sort of sense. Ultimately, these are big questions that most people want answers to, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone gets a good answer for them. Just because you have the right answer doesn't mean it's satisfying. It's just a shame. But it doesn't mean it ain't worth fighting for nonetheless. Gotta keep trying till you find the right answer. And everyone's answer will be different for the most part. Everyone finds solace in something, finds their purpose in something. What makes me happy won't make you happy. Not necessarily. If I enjoy playing, some people enjoy football. Football's not my thing, but they find joy in it, so who am I to stop them? And ultimately, it's not purpose. It's strange how easily distracted someone can get, and all the different little things. Some people live their entire lives going from thing to thing to thing, never really finding that overarching goal. I pity them in a sense. A truly fulfilling life needs an end goal. People need to aim for something. Don't necessarily know what that something is. It's different for every person, but everyone needs a something. Could be a loved one, could be acquisition of money, could be fame, or it could just be something as simple as, you know what, I just want to make it to Friday. Big goals, small goals, whatever gets you through the day. That's what's important. Keep fighting the good fight. life may life may suck, but it sucked for everyone. So it's not a condolence prize, but it means that we all gotta live through it, and it does get better. Like all the people may not believe their suffering has meaning, but we don't. Generally, we don't suffer all the time, and even if you are suffering all the time, it can get better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Can't stay dark forever. And usually it's darkest before the dawn. So just find some purpose. Find something to go for. Even if it sounds silly. Find something to get out there and go for it tomorrow. At the end of the day, getting up out of bed can be the hardest fight you do sometimes. May not be that way for everyone, but I certainly feel that way. Worst part of my morning is waking up, not because I have to live another day, but because I have to fight myself out of not laying in bed. Because it's comfortable. I don't want to work. I love my work, but I don't want to work. No reasonable person does, but it's something we all gotta do. In one way or another. I've tangented long enough. Hopefully I've made some semblance of a point in all this nonsense. I get the feeling I'll be picking up on this tomorrow night, though. So, we'll see how it goes then. Until then, keep your head up. Remember, life is a blank book. So life is a blank book, and you get to write what's in its pages. Because you're the main character of your story. And no one's going to live your life but you.